I'm Kelsey. This is my channel, The Fancy Hat Lady Reads. I'm wearing one of my fancy booktube hats. And today I'm switching things up a bit in terms of the order in which I post my videos every month. I've been thinking about this for a couple of months. It's kind of traditional on booktube to post your wrap-up for one month before posting your TBR for the next month. And I see why this is. This makes a lot of logical sense. As a viewer, you want to watch the video that explains these books and what they were like before seeing what this person is going to read the next month. But for me, making the videos, this feels like it's not making a ton of sense. Several months now, like this month included, this happened to me this month, I'll be finishing up a book that I'm very invested in on like the last night of the month. And then for the next couple days, I just haven't processed that last book enough to be ready to talk about it in a wrap-up. In addition, I will be trying to go back to the books that I read earlier in the month and try to remember what it is I wanted to talk about those. So it feels to me like I need a few days after the end of the month when I finish my last book for that month to figure out what I want to say about all of those books in one video. Contrary-wise, I actually have a fairly good idea of what my TBR is going to be for each month well in advance. And come the first of each month, I may be starting, like I am this month, one of the books that's on my TBR for, say, the month of September. So today I'm bringing you my TBR for the month of September. Know that my wrap-up for the month of August will be coming very soon. So the book that I just started today on the 1st is A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir by Lady Trent by Brennan. This is the first in a series, and this, you may remember, I said in my last TBR for the month of August that this was a book that I wasn't expecting to get to in August, but I kind of wanted to, and if I didn't, it would be my first priority for September, so I didn't get to it in August, and here it is. It is my first priority for September. I'm on chapter 2. It is putting a smile on my face so far. Next, I have decided that I'm going to participate in the Underhyped Reads Readathon. This is hosted by Ramblings of an Elfpire, and it's running from September 3rd through 9th, so that's 1 week, and I will link the announcement video for that down below. I'd been feeling sort of like a readathon. I hadn't realized really how much I was enjoying readathons until I, didn't have one last month, and I felt slightly bereft. When I started BookTube, I wasn't really expecting that readathons were something I was going to participate in because I didn't really think I would enjoy them, but I've enjoyed them so far. So I found myself another one. The Underhyped Reads Readathon is a fairly loosely defined readathon. There are no specific challenges. The goal is simply to read books that you deem underhyped by whatever definition you want to use. Number of Goodreads ratings is one common way to do this. I did look through my Goodreads TBR for what had the fewest ratings, and I have several books here that have under 1,000 ratings on Goodreads. So these aren't totally unknown books, but they are not particularly hyped books either, and they're books that I haven't seen elsewhere on BookTube. Now, interestingly, I have got a lot of YA fantasy on this list, which is good for a readathon because I know that's probably the genre that I read most quickly. I can get through a YA fantasy book generally faster than a book from about any other genre, regardless of the length. But this is interesting because we tend to think of YA fantasy as being like the most hyped genre, most overhyped genre, when in fact that is not the case for every single book in the genre, obviously. So the first book I have on this list is actually one that I am expecting will accumulate some hype eventually. I am assuming it will get a lot of ratings on Goodreads, but I haven't seen anyone talking about this book or anticipating it yet, and that is Bright Smoke, Cold Fire by Rosamund Hodge. And this is a book where, frankly, I am very, very surprised that I haven't heard anyone talking about anticipating this book yet. It is the first in a fantasy YA duology. I would have expected there to already be some hype. This is coming out later this month. I have an advance copy. And I was searching around YouTube and I was genuinely surprised to find no one talking about this. Rosamund Hodge is the author of a couple standalones that I at least think of as fairly popular, Cruel Beauty and Crimson Bound. I liked both of those. She does like cool mashup retellings. This is supposed to be a retelling of Romeo and Juliet with like necromancers and who knows what all else. So if no one is hyping it yet, I will start hyping it. Next two books I have are a couple of slightly older YA standalones. The first of which is a reread for me. This is The Phoenix Dance by Calhoun. I loved her books when I was in high school, and I think unfortunately most of them, if not all of them, may be out of print, which sucks. But this is a retelling of The 12 Dancing Princesses in which the protagonist is the shoemaker's apprentice, and I remember I really liked it when I was younger, but unlike some of her other books, I only ever read this once. I've reread some of her other books several times in my teens, but I only ever read this one once, and I don't remember it that well, so I want to reread it and see if it holds up, and if it does, I'll probably want to reread some of her other books too now that I'm older to see what I think of them as a slightly older reader. The next book I have here is one I got from Book Outlet a while back, and that is Mortal Fire by Elizabeth Knox. I think this takes place in like an alternate 1950s New Zealand with magic. And I did read one of her books in high school. I read Dreamquake without realizing it was the second book in a duology, and I was very confused at the time because I didn't know that it was the second book in a duology, but I also remember being like really fascinated by her writing. It was just, I don't remember exactly why, but I felt at the time that it was something I hadn't encountered before in a way that really haunted me and stuck with me and gave me that sort of feeling that there's something here that is drawing me. And reading some Goodreads reviews of this book, I think that's something that other people have found, that it's a really unusual type of YA fantasy writing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what I think of her writing now. And the third and final thing that I have here is not a YA fantasy novel. It is in fact a graphic novel, although I think it is fantasy. And that is Cursed Pirate Girl by Jeremy A. Bastian. I basically only ever read graphic novels for readathons. They're good for readathons, and it gives me an excuse to sort of investigate what's out there in terms of graphic novels, which isn't something that I read at all before I joined BookTube. I found this just by clicking around on Goodreads and seeing what was recommended for people who had liked various other things, and I was looking for something I could get from my library, and I stumbled upon this, and this looks extremely adventuresome and wacky and piratical. This is kind of what the art style looks like here, and then here's the first normal page. So it looks incredibly intricate, and this is, you know, the adventures of Cursed Pirate Girl. So we'll see what I think about this. So that's all I've got on my TBR for the readathon. I've got here 3 more books that are very high priorities for me by the end of this month. I did genuinely believe that I was going to read Son of the Shadows by Juliet Marillier by the end of August, and it just didn't happen because one of the books that I was reading in August, that I was very, very into this book, but it took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. And there were some other things due back at the library and so forth. This is the second book in Juliet Marillier's Seven Waters series, and it's gonna happen. The next book I have here is Precious Bane by Mary Webb. This is a British book from 1924, and I think this takes place in the 19th century, so it was historical fiction when it was written in 1924, and I think this is a romance of some sort. This is one of the books that I've picked up because of Goodreads recommendations, and it has very high ratings on Goodreads, and this is going to give me a break from all of the fantasy so I can just, you know, get myself a nice historical fiction. And then the last thing that's a very high priority for me this month is Lips Touch 3 Times by Laini Taylor. This is her collection of novellas that includes, let me see, where's the list of them? Goblin Fruit, Spicy Little Curses Such as These, and Hatchling. I've wanted very much since I read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy to read her earlier books. She has this one, which is YA novellas, and then she has a middle grade duology that seems to be fairly hard to find, so I haven't tried to dig it up yet. But I would like to catch up on some of her older stuff before her new book, which is going to be the first in a duology, comes out next year, so I am doing this. Okay, so that is my TBR for the month of September, including the Underhyped Reads Readathon. Let me know if you've read or heard about any of the underhyped books that I've chosen. I'd be very interested to hear from you if you have. Likewise, if you have anything to say about any of the other books that I'm planning on reading this month. I also would like to hear very much what you think of the idea of posting a TBR before I do my wrap-up for the previous month. Is this something that affects your watching? I am hoping it will not be an inconvenience, and I am hoping that it will give me some freedom to be more prepared for the videos that I film when I film them. Anyways, that's all for today. Bye for now.